So in the last lecture, we made sure that we can load contact data. Now I want to make sure that when we click this button here, we do actually submit our order. For that, I'll add an order handler, which is a method created in this syntax so that we can easily use it on events. And then here on this button, as on all buttons using our own button component, we can use our clicked property and pass the method which should get executed on a click as a reference. So now this order handler will get executed. We of course need access to the ingredients and contact data to make this request though. And here's a little trick I want to show you. I taught you all the building blocks you need for that, but it might still not be straightforward, to be honest. In the checkout container, where we include the component like this on the contact data path, I somehow want to pass the ingredients, which I do have in this component, to contact data. Now for this, I'll not use component here, but the render property, which takes a method, as you learned, where you then output some JSX on the right side of the arrow. And there I actually want to render the contact data element. Right now, the same as before, if I save this, you see I still see the contact data for that route. However, since I now render it manually here, I can pass props to it. And here I'll add my ingredients as a prop and refer to this state ingredients. With this set up, if I now go into contact data, here I can of course access the ingredients on props because I just set up this property. Now let's see this come together. If I save this and I build a new burger so that we have a real burger, and I click continue and click order, well, unfortunately this reloaded the page because we're inside a form. That is something which is the default behavior actually. But here I should handle the event object in order handler and add event prevent default to prevent the default, which is to send a request, which I don't want. I don't want to send a request because, well, this reloads my form. So after adding this, if we try this again, continue, if we now click order, you see now I print bacon and meat. I got the ingredients successfully. And again, prevent default is important in the order handler. On the event, you're getting automatically to prevent the default, which would be to send a request and reload the page. So now we get the ingredients in there. With the ingredients being passed, now submitting the request is easy, of course. In the burger builder, where I have commented out this code for sending a request, I'll take the code and cut it from there and add it into my order handler here. Comment it back in and add a loading state here, which initially is false, so that I can set it to true and show a spinner if I want to. Then here, ingredients is this props ingredients. Now we get the ingredients. The total price here is a different story. The total price here is difficult because right now, the total price is only calculated and stored in the burger builder. So what we actually have to do is we have to pass the total price along with the ingredients from the burger builder to the checkout component, to the checkout container. So here I'll simply push it to my query params. I'll push the price equals and then this state total price so that this is also passed as a query parameter. This of course also means that I have to get it inside my checkout component. Now here I'm looping for all the ingredients and then I'm pushing them onto my ingredients array. The total price of course is no ingredient, so I shouldn't push it onto this array. So instead I'll have to check if param 0 is equal to price, and this of course is only kind of a workaround. We'll find a better way of handling this state and passing it to this other container later in this course, no worries. So here I'll check if the param is price, so this param I just set up here. If it is price, then I don't want to add it to my ingredients object here. In the else case is when I want to do that. So here, if we have the price, I'll actually add a price variable here, which I'll set to 0 or null, whatever you like. And then here I'll set price equal to param1, because now I know, okay, I'm at the price element. Let's extract the price value and store it in this price variable. And then I can also set the state here and set the state for total price equal to price, what I have in this variable. And I'll also initialize price here. By the way, ingredients can also be initialized with null now, and price maybe with 0. And of course, this is now a way of getting the price in the checkout component. Now I want to pass the price on to the contact data, just as I pass on the ingredients. So here I'll also set price equal to this state total price now. With that, I receive a price property in the contact data, which I can now use in there. So in there, I can now also get the price on props, this props price. Now, the other part here, I could already connect this to my inputs, but I don't want to do this right now. We'll do it later. So for now, I'll leave all that data here as it is. Axios isn't found here. The reason, of course, is that Axios is imported in the Burger Builder. We need it there, but I also now need that import, which is referring to my own Axios instance. I need it in the contact data too. So there I'll also add the Axios import, and there we actually need to go up one additional level in the import path, like this. Now with that, we're having Axios in there too. Make sure to save all the files. And now you will see that once the app reloads at contact data, that you get an array regarding the ingredients. The reason for this is that we extract ingredients here in the checkout component, but we actually do this here when we initialize the state. The initial ingredients here are null though, and if we pass that to contact data and we try to render the burger there, this doesn't work with ingredients that are null. Now to fix this, what we can do is we can simply change component did mount to will mount. So before we render the child component, we already have access to the props there, so we can already get the query params there, but we do this at the point of time where we don't render the children, so we can set up the state prior to render the children. Now with that, if we go back to the contact data, this should now all work here. Now one thing I want to do is this purchasing state, which I'm setting here, is not required anymore. Loading is a state I don't use yet. And now with that, if we go back to the application and build a real burger and click order now and continue to the checkout here, but now click continue here and click order, we don't get a feedback here. But if we now check out our Firebase database, we should see this new order being placed at the end here. Now with that being stored in Firebase, let's complete this setup in the contact data here by taking advantage of the loading state and showing a spinner, and by redirecting the user once we are done. Now let's start with the spinner. We can simply import the spinner component here, of course. So let's quickly add that import spinner from, and now we have to go into the components folder, there into the UI folder, there we have the spinner, and that's the spinner file in there. And I want to output that spinner as long as we are loading. So here in the render method, I'll add my form variable, which is the form down there by default. But if this state loading is true, then form will actually be this spinner component. So let me grab the form from down there, this form element, and put it into the form variable up here. And then I'll just output form here, this form variable, which either is the form or the spinner. And let's now see if it does spin. I'm going to submit this invalid element here. We see a spinner, so that's working. Let's now also make sure we redirect once we are done. Now, in order to redirect here, normally we could run this props history, this history object we get by the router, and then push, for example, to the root page. However, due to the way we're loading contact data, by basically rendering it manually down here with that render method, we don't have the history object available in there. Now, there are two ways we can use to fix this. One is we can wrap the contact data component with this with router helper method. The other would be to pass histrions on, which we do get in the props of this render method here, onto contact data. Now, I will use the props I get in this render method, and I will simply distribute them here after passing my own props with curly braces. Props, whatever I get in the props here will be passed on to contact data, and therefore, since this will include the history object, this push method here should work. So now with that, if I build a new burger again, click order now, click continue and click order here, it does indeed push me back to the starting page. So this is the checkout page and processed finished. Of course, still some stuff we can do there regarding the form especially, but we'll take care about this in the forms module. Now let's focus on the My Orders page instead, another page we definitely need.